Animal consciousness.
Animal consciousness. People helping animals, people helping the planet. The program's mission is to improve the living conditions of all animals and the health of our planet. Mankind is not separate from nature. All life on Earth is interconnected. The maintenance of biodiversity and treating animals humanely is important. Higher mammals have megacognition, the ability to think, awareness, and understanding. Animals feel joy and pain.
America's wolves are under attack. Gray wolves, Mexican wolves, the red wolf, the eastern wolf, all wolves, coyotes are under attack by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, State Fish and Game, hunters, ranchers, trappers, poachers. And we'll be introducing you to Tanya Littlewolf. She is the curator owner of Wolf Mountain Sanctuary in Lucerne Valley, California. Matthew Littlewolf. We have many other people joining us. Manuel Vela, part of our union members for preservation of wildlife. He's a representative. We have Eric Movar from Western Watersheds Project. Roger Dobson from Protect the Wolves, another Native American entity that's fighting to save the wolves. You'll see many people. Christy White Eagle, an Apache native that is speaking out against the killing of the wolves. Native Americans, wolf activists, animal rights activists, all pulling together to expose the corruption of our tax dollars, subsidizing the hunting industry, the trapping industry, and America's slaughter of our wolves in Yellowstone and in every other state here in the United States. But it's up to you to support us. It's up to you to speak out.
We're here in Torrance, California today at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services office to protest the killing of our sacred Yellowstone wolves. If we don't bring this into check, this year alone, as of about 4 weeks ago, they'd already killed 23 wolves. And it's important that more awareness is brought to this so wolves will gain the endangered species reflection across the entire country and not just 44 states. The most important states they've left out of the relisting onto the endangered species list. And the livestock ranchers are able to just do whatever they want. They hunt at night, they use spotlights, they bait, now they're trapping. They're using leg hold traps, they're using snares, and it's pretty much torture on our children's resources.
My name is Eric Movar. I'm the Executive Director of Western Watersheds Project, and I'm here to support wolf recovery and try and get wolves relisted under the Endangered Species Act. I came from Laramie, Wyoming because it's important to recover wolves nationwide throughout the United States. And currently they're listed under the Endangered Species Act in many of the western states, but they're not listed in Idaho or Montana or Wyoming or parts of eastern Oregon and Washington. And these are the places where the threats to wolves are greatest, where the wolf populations are at greatest risk, and where the wildlife management policy of the states are the most anti-wolf and essentially amount to an eradication policy.
Well, they call me Night Rider Magic, and I'm here representing union members for the preservation of wildlife, and I'm also here representing the Buffalo Soldiers MC. And it's important for me to be here today to advocate for the wolves and also the bison that are about to be slaughtered in Yellowstone. Can we go to help the people learn a way to coexist with wildlife versus just murdering them and trapping them? So there's some kind of connection that the Creator has given us with wolves that we need to re-tap back into. Slaughtering wolves, slaughtering wildlife is totally against human nature. And so we've just got to get back to basics.
We're all here to protect our wolves wherever they're killing our animals. The wolves are being slaughtered. I'm Chiricahua Mescalero Apache, born in New Mexico on the Mescalero Apache Res. Our brothers are the wild wolves. They're family oriented. But natives ran with the wolves. The wolves taught them. The natives, our people, call the wolf the teacher. And we have to walk with the wolf again. You got to stand up for the wolf. Don't sit home. You should come to our protest. That is our heritage. What is your children going to see? A wolf, a bear, a buffalo, a shark in the zoo? You need to go out in the wild, sit there, play your flute, play your guitar, whatever you play, and sit there and feel the love of the animals. Look what's happening to our earth. Stand up, you people. God bless you all.
Well, wolves are an essential part of native ecosystems across the West, and they're a top predator, and as such, they move the herbivores around, and they play an essential role. And when wolves returned to Yellowstone, they initiated trophic cascades that benefited all kinds of different species. So the willows around the stream banks recovered, the songbirds around the riparian areas recovered, many of the scavengers and other smaller predators benefited, and the entire ecosystem was able to rebound. So species like aspens and cottonwoods also were able to start reproducing again, where before the elk were so numerous and so concentrated that they actually ate down the saplings of the willows and the aspens and the cottonwoods and didn't allow any reproduction. And this happened for 50, 60 years of elk overpopulation and concentration in the northern ranges of Yellowstone.
They provide a priceless element to our environment. They're shooting a lot of the Yellowstone wolves. They're being called out of the park so they can be taken care of. It's unallowable what's happening to our wolves in, Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. It's important that we work harder to protect them, that's for sure. They're not going to be here much longer.
Hi, my name is Christy Whitego. I'm here to support the wildlife and the killing of Yellowstone, the animals. It's just not right what they're doing.
Hi, my name is Matthew Thomas. I'm here to fight and support for the wolves and wildlife all over. The wolves at Wolf Mountain Sanctuary, it's a very spiritual experience to be around them, to get to know them, and once you have that bond, you guys are like one. There's nothing like it.
Western Watersheds Project is a nonprofit conservation organization that's dedicated to protecting and restoring wildlife and watersheds throughout the American West, and principally on public lands. And we've been one of the big pushes behind wolf recovery and wolf protection throughout the United States. We were part of the litigation that got wolves relisted under the Endangered Species Act after the Trump administration delisted them nationwide. And last year we also petitioned the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to list wolves under the Endangered Species Act throughout the West, not just in those areas where they had previously been protected prior to Trump, but also in those states where they had been delisted under a congressional rider by Senator Tester and Senator Simpson. And that was a political act that basically circumvented the entire purpose of the Endangered Species Act, which is to protect native species of wildlife from extinction based on the best available science. And supposedly politics is not supposed to enter into it, but Senator Tester and Senator Simpson from Wyoming jumped the line and basically dictated from Congress that wolves be delisted by a congressional rider. And that goes directly against the spirit and intent of the Endangered Species Act. Well, certainly in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, these are failed states. These are states where wolf management is an eradication policy, where all kinds of brutal and inhumane practices are legally allowed. For instance, in Wyoming, there is a practice called coyote whacking, where it is legal to drive snowmobiles over wolves and coyotes and run them over until they're dead. And there was a bill introduced into the Wyoming legislature that was to make this practice illegal, and it didn't even get out of committee because the legislature wanted this practice not to be illegal. In Montana, they allow wolf killing right up to the boundary of Yellowstone National Park. And Rogers' organization, Protect the Wolves, proposed to the legislatures of Wyoming and Montana and the state governments that they create a sacred resource protection zone of 31 miles around Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park.
Oh, there's the pups.
In order to protect the wolves from being shot and trapped right up on the boundary of Yellowstone. That didn't happen, and this year some 25% of the Yellowstone National Park wolf population was slaughtered as it wandered across the line into Montana because of the lack of active wildlife management policies that prevent hunters from taking wolves and luring wolves out of the park. And these are wolves that are habituated to humans and wolves that are very popular with the American public. And they're being lured across the National Park Service line so they can be shot in Montana. And it's a quarter of the population that's been decimated because of this. I think Secretary Holland and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Director Martha Williams need to list wolves today and protect wolves today with an emergency listing effort. And that's been petitioned by a number of conservation groups. They know how bad state management is in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. They know how bloodthirsty these state game and fish and legislatures are in these states, and they know how inadequate the regulatory mechanisms are that are supposed to support wolf protection and recovery. Clearly, Endangered Species Act protection is warranted in these 3 states, and it ought to be delivered today.
Well, it's important that we protect our children's resources. Wolves, grizzly bears, bison, buffalo. Doesn't matter. We need to protect them all. The public needs to help. Without the public's help, it's going to be a long time coming. Let's get this going and protect our children's resources. Protect the wolves. Well, it's important that we work harder to protect them, that's for sure. They're not going to be here much longer.
I think it's important that we show and educate everyone to the plight of the wolf and educate you on why we need wolves with us and why it's important to save them, and they play a very important role in our ecosystem. They demonize the wolf and the coyote. The ones behind it is the Cattlemen's Association, the cattle industry, the sheep herding industry. Keep in mind that they want 9 species to disappear, but not just that. Big oil, gas, and mining also are behind it. Native Americans killed only for one reason, for survival. But this isn't just about our personal feelings, this is about the ecosystem. It's all in the balance of nature. We've got to expose what's going on, folks. And if you don't step up to the plate, we're going to let corruption take over and wipe out the rest of our wildlife. What's going to be here for our children, our great-grandchildren? What's a wild horse, all right? That's what they'll be asking. So all what I could say is step up to the plate, speak up, speak out, and expose the politicians that are in the pockets of the hunting and trapping industry and the special interests in Washington. In our case, our organization has several lawsuits against the Bureau of Land Management over the wild horse and burro roundups. You know, don't let anybody fool you when the Bureau of Land Management and these other agencies say the horses are overpopulating. They're not. Under the 1971 Wild Horse and Free Roaming Act, better known as the Wild Horse Anti-Act, these horses were never to be bothered. We elect these politicians, and these politicians are like 5th-generation cattle ranchers like Ken Salazar, who was the head of the Department of the Interior. And what do? They bring in another cattle rancher. So they've got the guys on the inside. It's a fixed game we're fighting against, folks. And what they do is through sneaky little bills, amendments, and riders, they take these bills, they take money away from our military vets, our police, our firefighters. Get involved with Western Watersheds Project. Get involved with Project Protect the Wolves. Reach out to Union Members for Preservation of Wildlife. Our website is www.umpwi.com. We're on Facebook under Union Members for Preservation of Wildlife International. Reach out to the Native American community. Come on out to a wolf rescue and get a hands-on experience with a live wolf. I mean, let's stop demonizing these coyotes and these wolves. We need them around, because if we kill them all, guess what? Hantavirus, rabies, plague, typhus fever.
Rats.
And these rodents will then cause it, and we die. Yes. Yeah, no hickeys though, okay? You know, yes, baby. Yes.